Hello. Good morning. Welcome to the WiseOne channel. I just started filming. And I am your host, Lady Karen, Urban Arts. It's good to see you guys. I had to make a live video. Today, we are about to have a new moon tomorrow. So it'd be the first day, the day of, and the day after is usually the day of the new moon. I'd say time of the new moon. So we'll be talking about letting go, cleaning out, making things ready for growth this morning. So grab a drink, Joyce, and pull up a chair, and let's get started. Just waking up. So, hi. May I touch your forehead? No? Okay. I won't touch your forehead. I should ask before I touch your forehead. So, are you asking if you could get up here? Alright. I'm working, okay? So I'm talking about certain stuff. Do you fit? Okay. Oh, I love you. Alright. People don't like to see the inside of people's yawning mouths. They're afraid they're gonna get sucked in and the person's gonna eat them. If you've settled down and you're ready for us to begin, we could start this by taking a few deep breaths and getting ourselves grounded. Would you like to breathe with me? You can breathe if it's safe for you to do so and follow along. Alright, so I'm gonna put my feet on the ground, straighten my back, relax. I'm gonna breathe in through my nose till I expand my diaphragm. And then I'll let it out. I may or may not hold it, but I'm going to focus on breathing out anxiety and the EBGBs and the and breathing in calm, focused thoughts. See you in a little bit. Alright, so let's get started on breathing. I'm going to do a session of 3 deep breaths. And then from there, we'll get started.
Are you awesome?
Very nicely grounded. Alright, where shall we begin? Yes, I did not have a particular sermon in mind. I knew that from this time that I would get on the video. I haven't done my usual podcast the last couple of days, so trying to get into the routine. Holding this morning's sermon, great power, great divine that is of a higher power than all of us, than our own inner divinity, recognizing the inner divinity of our connection to each other, connection to all living things, and the divinity that is in the connection to our Mother Earth and the universe, all things greater, expanding all things, retracting to the end, continuously, infinitely, wonderfully. And that's what we're learning, is that divinity in ourselves and the divinity for each other. And with that presence, letting go of things, I want to let go of certain concepts. And it's very freeing. It allows a different perspective, and perspective is very powerful. The way that we look at things. When we change our perspectives, we let go of certain perspectives. Um, so letting. Okay, so this is for our WiseOne note. I just found a random sheet of paper. I'm going to write in there, and then I'm going to put it in my notebook. And then from my notebook, I'm going to revisit again, and then put it into a bigger book. Our wisdom books, passing down to generations of our family and other things, letting them know the things that we wanted to let them know, that urgently feels like, I want to share this with you, but their ears may not be open, and that's okay. I don't blame them. Blame them not, I was going to say. But if they have a willingness to listen, and they have where it's presented to them, where they have a problem or a situation, and then it's like, hey, yeah, I went through that. This is what I did. This worked for me. This is what I wanted to share with you. They might be a little more perceptive. If they're having a good life and you want to teach them the dangers that were in your generation and certain things that you had to avoid, it feels like it falls on deaf ears. Yes, they listen. And yes, they hear you, especially if you drill it into their head, or nag them, but it doesn't have or carry the same weight until it has to do with them. So putting it in a book or putting the information down, like in these videos, really helps them be able to pick it up when they're receptive. So new moons, generally we cycle as humans. And in these cycles, getting rid of or purging perspectives that are untrue. Untrue to us, untrue, unfactual, or misconceptions, and go certain misconceptions. We'll just put down misconceptions, because we're going to reiterate into another book and then write it down, because it portrays in our life, and we get to, every time we write it down and we look at it and we clean it up and we get to writing to the next part, this rough draft, and we get into the next rough draft, and we clean it up and we polish it up to the point that we understand it in different associations, in different aspects of our lives, in retrospects. Things like letting go of good and evil. We can go that sort of binary, which nowadays is a word that carries a lot of weight with gender. But rudimentally, binary is talking about this or that, seeing things black or white, seeing things good or evil, seeing things good or bad, seeing things one way or another, and having a clear split down the middle. It's a difficult concept when it keeps running into things. and now I see a bunny. My youngest would like to be informed. The integrity tells me that I see a bunny and a squirrel, and due to my word, I said I would let her know. So I'm letting her know in the middle of our sermon. It went that way. Did you get to see it? Yay. Okay. So yeah, that was that interruption. But evil. Good and evil is a conception that I have worked towards getting rid of. This binary, this, that, the black and white, this is the good person, that is the bad person, villainizing people. It can villainize people. Not all people who see things black and white villainize people. But letting go of that tyranny of villainizing and pitting you against another person rather than feeling more inclusive towards other people and your connection towards other people. It's very difficult if you hold a grudge or emotionally are involved with being hurt by a person. It can be very difficult on the fear side. And on the other side, having more inclusion to those who are downtrodden or those who are pinned against, or the little guy or the slim dog with the, like, oh, we're villainizing this person because, and the truth is, within all of us, we have a complete person. We have a person that's capable of doing such treacherous deeds, and yet we're a person who is capable of such love. And it feels like some people use that love for nefarious means, or aren't capable of love. And I have no idea if they are or not because I don't know them, or I no longer talk to them. And so that does make things difficult if you're trying to be inclusive and you're trying to be. So we all have our challenges that we face as trials, tribulation, and it's, or just situations that we're faced with. And we get to choose, when we're aware of that choice, what we do about it. Being aware of that choice is a huge step. People are like, you choose to do this or you choose to do that. A lot of times, some people aren't aware of choice. Choice has been taken from them in one form or another, or they're only made to see one way or another, or people have a feeling of destitute or a feeling of, oh, they can't do things. They have no other choice, or desperation. And so what do we want to do about what we have? What do we want to do about what's before us and going for what we want? So if we let go of these concepts, these misconceptions, these things that may not ring true for us, what's left? What's in the void of that? What leads us to grow beyond that? I think that's the mama squirrel. I think that's mama squirrel. Nope, that's not the mama squirrel. That is one of the other squirrels. The nature outside our door, and I love it. So it's nice to say, oh, I no longer believe in good and evil, but sometimes our actions don't always reflect that as we're learning more and more about these concepts. We're learning how these concepts apply to our lives. And it's very interesting. So getting rid of it can be a process and a practice. And it gets pretty easy to, like, blame somebody. "You're not following what you're not being true. You're fake. You're false." And these accusations are quite intriguing because for all intents and purposes, it looks like what they're saying is true, that the person's lifestyle is a lie, da 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 da. And I have to wonder, because I've been trying to put myself in the shoes or in the place of those who I have certain philosophies, I have certain morals, and I have certain standards by which I live. There are things that I feel are wrong to do. Whether it's right or wrong, it's debatable. Does it hurt somebody? Does it help somebody? Is it healthy to do? Is it unhealthy to do? What type of harm is it really doing in the long run? What kind of harm is it doing? What the presence? But like somebody's artwork could be harming the environment, but it's their lifestyle. Did you guys want to feed the squirrels on the porch? The mamas is getting ready to go up onto the porch. So looking for stuff on the ground, 'cause sometimes I throw peanuts on the ground. But yeah. So, sentience. Getting rid of certain concepts. Getting rid of certain identities. Getting rid of things that don't have long-term benefits to us. Choosing carefully. To who and what we are and what we do, and to a life that we give some intent on our choices of what is present and what is seen and unseen and what is known. So the divinity within ourselves that we can communicate to and communicate from, letting go of some of those misconceptions and doing the hard work of not just the thought of letting go of those conceptions, but letting go of those in our life. To understand, we let go of the good and bad, and we put ourselves in the footsteps of people who do things that we believe are immoral and wrong, and like looking at capitalism and how the greedy just want greed, or they just want money, or they just want fame, or they just want. I'm taking a moment to consider, why is it right for them? Why is it wrong for other people? Defending. I'm taking a moment to consider, because I feel like, no, that's not something I would do. Capitalism, to consume stuff at the expense of somebody else in an elitist form is harmful, because I can see the harm in those who nearly starve to death or go through hardships. And somebody might say, oh, but those hardships shaped them. They might not have. Those results of the hardships that they've endured can lie in other places other than the end of their hardship, if they were lucky enough to go through, to make it to the other end. They carry that depression and that harm with them for a very long time, and it can drive them. But the same person who goes to feed people because they've been starving, and the person who feeds people because it might get them something in return, and those who feed people because, well, it feels good to feed people. They're just selfless. The end of their intent, the end result of their intent. What's that feel? Intentions, the implications, the things like that. When people that we know and love have certain effects caused by things in their life, and then we see these circles within these circles and the circles of the circles and these connections that people have. So I was watching a lecture on Stoicism. And this was my first, and I've only gotten the first lecture. So there's lots more of Stoicism that I'm not yet familiar with in the growth. And my first approach is to question it and think, oh, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. And why, so in this lecture, the professor was talking about putting the greater good above, your own personal self. Because there is so much result with taking care of the greater good. But if you take care of the greater good, and Stoicism talks about doing things in moderation, not putting too much energy or too little energy, according to this lecture that I was watching. I should probably find the professor's name. You tend to looking and considering how narcissism stems of people who aren't cared for or aren't able to get the things that they need to in order to be cared for, and how it leads them to be more and more selfish, and how those who are selfless, the result of them being selfless changes their brain, and it makes different effects on parts of their brain, changes the way their brain is shaped, and they become more and more selfless. It just happens to be it benefits them to the point that they are selfless people. So if we clear out the needs to be selfish, if we clear out the needs to not have your needs met, and we get more benefits, and we get a rush of endorphins, and we get a rush of life changing and life altering benefits. Taking care of the greater good. So taking care of ourselves, taking care of the greater good, which should come first? How do you decide which one has higher priority? They feel like they have the same because they have the same benefits. Taking care of yourself helps your neighbors, taking care of your neighbors helps you, and this interchanging. That's why it has divinity and connection to each other. So if you get rid of certain misconceptions that if I help my neighbor, then I won't have enough food or enough of what I'm helping them with. And so you stand at a crossroads, however fleeting a moment or a long time, the benefits, and you have to choose, and you're left with choice. So I've put myself trying to, from the mind frame, because, in the seeking out answers as a know it all, as in knowing this one answer that says seek out the answer and then seek out to the other answers to the same question that may contradict or support, or there's many answers to the one question that allows you to form a full answer or a full thought or a three-dimensional concept. with emotions included. So I'm skirting around a lot of stuff because I'm being careful with these concepts, forms, because you can draw a conclusion. I could draw a conclusion. Do I want to influence your conclusion? Or do I want to lay it and let you come to a conclusion that may be similar? If it's not, how did you get to your conclusion? Let's learn from each other. Let's build a whole concept. Let's hold, because our divine self says, is that philosophy or is that policy right or wrong? That binary. We get rid of the binary. We get rid of the concept that we can be rational, reasonable more than, if we take away the emotion, which it's funny because our brain, our physiological self, processes all of our emotion or all of our thoughts through emotional pathways. The pathways that come with aversion, neutral, or getting more of it, like addicted to that. Like, I love this. This is what I want more, more. So if we get rid of the misconception that we are only rational, but and then open ourselves to the fact that our rational selves stems from justifying our emotional reaction or our emotional understanding. If we put our emotions first and we allow for our thoughts later, because we're going to have to test these conceptions, the conclusions that we come to in order to build a concept. So how did somebody come to a way of being selfish, of acquiring money, acquiring fame, or acquiring something at the expense of somebody else? Why was it such a good idea? What laid the groundwork that that was a good idea? To hurt others for your gain? Because we could just blame the person who's doing the consumption at the cost of others' well-being of some form or another, mental, emotional, financial ways of life. So something made it sound good. And sometimes I've heard of stories where these people are like, I, accomplished great wealth that it was empty and I left it, and they have a nice life that they leave the wealth that they built, or they stopped building the wealth. They still have the wealth, or they still have connection points where they are like, yeah, no, I no longer, I give away all my belongings, I give away all my stuff, I don't have, that's what I live for, I beg, or I do things. So somebody still has the generated wealth that gives to the poor. And so they justify themselves that, oh no, the trickle down effect. Like, why does that make sense? Who laid the foundation that you parasitically suck up resources for the one? This inflation, this ballooned effect of wealth or resources or knowledge, or this one just, where are you getting this? Where is this coming from? Who benefits and who doesn't? And what happens when the balloon pops of that inflation and you're left with less than what you had before? A lot of times people feel emotionally less than what they had before, and they reach for somebody who philosophically lives from their emotional state or from their mental state or from their, they live with less minimalism of some sort. Not extreme minimalism as the established, this is minimalism, but the concept of living with less. Get rid of the misconception of good and evil. And we're looking at this, how did you get to acquiring wealth, or why did you? What was the point? Why did you want more and more and more and more? Why is one person selfish and the other person selfless? Put yourself in their shoes and you can see this network, that the divinity in the network of the people around them. Society, what we blame is the society, which can be this catch-all phrase, this umbrella, this very gigantic, our circles, our communities, our corporations, or this big old bubble of people, life, networking, and it gets bigger. And we cover more and more stuff under that umbrella. But if you look at the networks of this, and you get rid of this misconception of good and evil, or if you handle good and evil as a conception that may be a misconception, remember, we're testing this good and evil thing. We're going to build a full concept of that. And we look at the philosophy that would lead to morally why you would think it's okay, justified for putting others' needs aside and only handling your own, and handling your own or everybody else's needs and putting yours aside, with benefits that your cup gets dried up so that you can no longer provide for other people, and hopefully that involves a risk. That's an investment of your time and your resources and your knowledge and your helping and your emotional input of helping other people. So I've seen these charities helping other people. So how do you help yourself and others at the exact same time in a balance, you know, in a way that is one? You're helping mankind and you're mankind, or you're helping all life on the earth. And so it starts to get tricky. Do I have the answers? I have hypotheses. It needs to be tested. It needs to be brought up and it needs to be considered for more than one person. Even if I preach about it, so I can look at these concepts throughout time, build hypotheses and simulations of what it could be. I can look at our present moment of what it is. So I've been looking at morals as a misconception, but at the same time, there's a need for, oh, what do I believe is right and what do I believe is wrong? Because I've been taught that we should treat all people equally or inclusively, even if, they're one way or another. I'm sitting here looking at, well, the way we treat our animals, they're pretty much enslaved. The way we treat, our dogs or cats and the way we domesticate ourselves. So who's leading? We found a way through that suppression where we govern each other. Like, oh no, you can't have your grass that high. So I'm going to have the city or the other powers that be come down and give you consequences. These are lots of open-ended concepts, questions, considerations that I'm giving you on today's sermon. So this really opens up your mind. This really opens up who you are. And I have seen a lot of people who are like, wake up and the way you think, and they've laid before, here, do this. You've followed that. Well, think for yourself. Look at this concept. And a lot of times people just follow that concept from what I've seen. That new concept. They're like, hey, question everything. So that you can believe what I see. If we question this, here, this is what I believe. This is the conclusion I came to when I questioned my predecessors. And so now I've got these thoughts. These should make sense to you if I help you question those. Like, if I do that for you guys, what conclusions are you going to reach? Would I not stunt the growth of these misconceptions? We should revisit these conceptions at a full moon. So we've had a whole new moon. Clean out these misconceptions, or these conceptions that are possibly misconceptions, and allow for the growth as the moon gets more and more illuminated. Look at the growth and see where we stand there, because it'll get chopped again with those, they call it pruning. We can revisit these thoughts over and over again, these concepts, these ways of life, these philosophies, these ever-changing, ever-evolving ways. Do I have all the answers? Am I supposed to have all the answers? No. The Great Divine has laid out all the work that's available for us to do and given us tools where we have our own divinity, we have our inner power, we have our inner ability to control a power that's seemingly, what's the word? We can't touch stuff. There's a word for that. Seemingly intangible. That's the word. So a seemingly intangible concept of power, empowerment, things that we have. So we sit with. So what I do is I work on sitting with myself, sitting with my higher power, sitting and presenting it in the dimension of our other selves and our realistic selves of what we know to be materialistic and dimensional, something that we can perceive. Again, we are perceiving this world. And as far as we know, lots of people perceive it similarly. We can say it the same way, or we tend to say the same way, whether or not. So we perceive Great Divine. We perceive our own divinity, and we perceive our divinity in each other, and the divinity of the earth, and the divinity of the universe. And then we can grow when we understand what we're perceiving, when we give it words, and we give it language, and we give it kata, when it goes beyond words or language and feeling. Our words come from our feelings. Words that we use more are the words that we like and we move towards. We're attracted towards the things that we like, and we have to build that in ourselves. And we build it, and it can be seen in our society. You can see this rippling effect of this concept that we are trying to conceive. And this power that you're divine in. And I look back and I go, I've made so many mistakes knowing this now, how I should have behaved. I want my kids to know they're on their own path. I can make it available for my kids. I can make it available for others who want it. But to say this is right and this is wrong, whether or not your inner divinity says that, that is up to you. I can't tell you this is your moral high ground, this is your pillars of thoughts. I don't feel that's right. You may look for it, you may need of it, and I don't have it available here. I'm not entirely sure what you have because I'm not there, but we have this connection. I may not be aware of it because I can't see you on the other side of the screen. And you can You could think, oh, this whole time you would love me and I have this concept. I may not be aware of it. You just don't know it. I'm like, I'm not aware of it at all. And, but I can draw conclusions. So let's look at this concept that we can conceive and build of letting go this binary, perhaps misconception of good and evil. Allow for growth and see where that leads us on the new moon or the full moon. So we'll give it, so many days to build. And revisit it again and again and again. So, in conclusion of my sermon, of my lecture, of my imposing knowledge of the things that I've looked for, is why are the things bad that are bad, and why are the things good that are good? If there is this letting go of the conception of good and evil, why do they do what they do? What is their benefit? Who are they hurting? Why would they want to, what justification do they have? And what power do we have? So in our approach and in our thinking and feeling and doing, though I am aware that given too many choices, we can shut down, like out of the danger zone of fight and flight. There's also the nervous system that shuts down. So given the choice, knowing that we can conceive choice and let go of control. Control is another possible misconception that I would like to let go of or clean out this new moon. This thought of control. Let that go and focus on an empowerment of ourselves, empowerment of making choices, decisions, making, letting go and bringing back. I don't think I have an in conclusion of this video as much as I have presenting to you a homework assignment for yourself so that we can build together in community and empowerment of organizing together these possible philosophies, these possible emotions, these possible ways of life. Let it go and come back again. Let it pulse. Let it grow life. Let these things balance each other out. How do you balance how much you give, how much you receive, how much you're doing for yourself to make sure your needs are met, and how much you're doing for others so their needs are met or that their needs are not being trampled on? That connection, to seek out the divinity and the connection to each other, connections to ourselves, and our connections to the great divine that is more powerful than all of us, but yet connects us. So there's this network, or there's this growth and interconnection of our lives. When we look at how everything is connected, so we approach it individually. Choice. Finding more choice. That's always fun. So if you find yourself paralyzed from choices, I tend to follow my intuition. It's working for me. Following my intuition allows for me to make choice. And then after the result of the choice, would I make a similar choice later? Or would I hone my experience, understanding of my experience, and the realization of my experience from the choice that I made previously to allow for a new choice? an opposite choice, a similar choice, so follow intuitively. Find your intuition somewhere. So that's part of your inner divinity. So the misconceptions that are possible, that there are good and evil, that we have control, that we have right or wrong, and that you have to put individual self first or the connection of the great common everybody together. It's what allows you to be symbiotic, what allows you to be parasitic. And how do you treat people equally or treat life forms equally and treat yourself equally and inclusively? So this new moon allows us to look at these aspects. It's one thing we can do with our new moon, but you may have certain other things that you're involved in that come first, that are prioritized. But my visit on this new moon is looking at these concepts. So I've looked at them before and I am revisiting them again. These concepts of good and evil, these concepts of right, wrong, binary, these concepts, right and wrong, these concepts of control, what is seen and unseen. Letting that power, cleaning that up and looking at it more, cleaning. And cleaning it can be meditative for some, and or walking or being active in secondary tasks and tasks that you don't really have to think, oh, I'm going to pick this up, I'm going to move it to my mouth, I'm going to tilt, I'm going to drink, all those things that toddlers have to learn in order to just drink out of a cup. And we sit here and now it's secondary. And our first thought is, oh, take a sip. Some don't even think about taking a sip. Some just think, oh, I'm working. A sip of water is taken and they don't think about it and they just keep going. Or a sip of tea today. And then they just keep working. They're working, and drinking is in that concept. Drinking sip of water is secondary, or something we do so often it becomes a secondary motion, secondary action. Yeah. So looking at or bringing to light these certain concepts, then giving them a little while to clear away and see what growth is there in light of letting go of these concepts and see where they get to. See what results. Give it a little time. For now, we're setting let's visit this or take a moment to stop at the full moon. So next full moon. Visit what happens when we let go of these concepts. I'll visit what happens when we go these concepts. I don't believe that was asking. Go for questioning everything instead of just doing. Caught up. Let's go for feeling of the concept motion. And what happens after the mission. So yeah. It's a journey. We're looking at the journey. We're looking at how we do things. I'm gonna let you go with that. Let you know how much I love you guys. Love you, love you, love you. Love you guys. Until next we meet, have a good one.